We'll wait a moment to give people a chance to join us and log on. Hello, everyone. My name is Jungle Jamie, and welcome to Hawk Mountain's Sanctuary Storytime. Today's program is the Velveteen Rabbit, and I am so happy that you are here. If you're happy too, then shake your tail feathers. Hawk Mountain, we love nature. We love the birds, especially the raptors. We love the plants, the animals, the earth, the soil, the sky, because we know that all living things are connected. If you love nature too, then move around like your favorite animal. Okay, I am so excited for today's program. It's going to be fantastic. And joining us today to read our story and share an amazing craft and some other surprises are my friends, Riley and Andrea. Hey, Riley, what are we going to learn about at today's Sanctuary Storytime?
Hi, Jamie. Thank you everyone for joining us today. So today I'm also joined by my friend Andrea, and we are going to first read the story, The Velveteen Rabbit, and then we are going to learn a little bit more about rabbits, maybe meet a special friend, have a special surprise, and then we're gonna walk you guys through how to make your own sock rabbit, Velveteen Rabbit at home with just a couple simple steps. So I think we'll go right ahead and get started with the story. All right. So The Velveteen Rabbit. Okay, so here's our first page. The Velveteen Rabbit, or How Toys Become Real. There once was a Velveteen Rabbit, and in the beginning he was really splendid. He was fat and bunchy as a rabbit should be. His coat was spotted brown and white. He had real thread whiskers, and his ears were lined with pink sateen. On Christmas morning, when he sat wedged in the top of the boy's stocking, with a sprig of holly between his paws, the effect was charming. There were other things in the stocking, nuts and oranges and a toy engine, and chocolate almonds and a clockwork mouse. But the rabbit was quite the best of all. For at least 2 hours, the boy loved him, and then aunts and uncles came to dinner, and there was a great rustling of tissue paper and unwrapping of parcels. And in the excitement of looking at all the new presents, the Velveteen Rabbit was forgotten. So there's our Velveteen Rabbit. For a long time, he lived in the toy cupboard or on the nursery floor, and no one thought very much about him. He was naturally shy, and being made of velveteen, some of the more expensive toys quite snubbed him. The mechanical toys were very superior and looked down upon everyone else. They were full of modern ideas and pretended they were real. The model boat, who had lived through 2 seasons and lost most of his paint, caught the tone from them and never missed an opportunity of referring to his rigging in technical terms. The rabbit could not claim to be a model of anything, for he didn't know that real rabbits existed. He thought that they were all stuffed with sawdust like himself, and he understood that sawdust was quite out of date and should never be mentioned in modern circles. Even Timothy, the jointed wooden lion, who was made by the disabled soldiers and should have been broader views, put on airs and pretended he was connected with the government. Between them all, the poor little rabbit was made to feel himself very insignificant and commonplace, and the only person who was kind to him at all was the skin horse. The skin horse had lived longer in the nursery than any of the others. He was so old, and his brown coat was bald in patches and showed the seams underneath, and most of the hairs in his tail had been pulled out to string bead necklaces. He was wise, for he had seen a long succession of mechanical toys arrive to boast and swagger, and by break their mainsprings and pass away. And he knew that they were only toys and would never turn into anything else. For nursery magic is very strange and wonderful, and only those playthings that are old and wise and experienced, like the skin horse, understand all about it. "What is real?" asked the rabbit one day when they were lying side by side near the nursery fender before Nana came to tidy the room. "Does it mean having things that buzz inside you and a stick-out handle?" "Real isn't how you are made," said the skin horse. "It's a thing that happens to you. When a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real." "Does it hurt?" said the rabbit. "Sometimes," said the skin horse, for he was always truthful. "When you are real, you don't mind being hurt." "Does it happen all at once, like being wound up?" he asked, "or bit by bit?" "It doesn't happen all at once," said the skin horse. "You become. It takes a long time. That's why it doesn't often happen to people who break easily or have sharp edges or have to be carefully kept. Generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off." Oh, here's our picture. So here's our Velveteen Rabbit up here and our skin horse talking to him in the toy room. "Your eyes drop out and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all, because once you are real, you can't be ugly, except to people who don't understand." "I suppose you are real?" said the rabbit, and then he wished he hadn't said it, for he thought the skin horse might be sensitive. But the skin horse only smiled. "The boy's uncle made me real," he said. "That was a great many years ago. But once you are real, you can't become unreal again. It lasts forever." The rabbit sighed. He thought it would be a long time before his magic called real happened to him. He longed to become real, to know what it felt like, and yet the idea of growing shabby and losing his eyes and whiskers was rather sad. He wished that he could become it without these uncomfortable things happening to him. There was a person called Nana who ruled the nursery. Sometimes she took notice of the playthings lying about, and sometimes, for no reason whatever, she went swooping about like a great wind and hustled them away in the cupboards. She called this tidying up, and the playthings all hated it, especially the tin ones. The rabbit didn't mind it so much. For whatever he was thrown in, he became soft. One evening, when the boy was going to bed, he couldn't find the china dog that always slept with him. Nana was in a hurry, and it was too much trouble to hunt for china dogs at bedtime. So she simply looked around her, and seeing that the toy cupboard door was open, she made a swoop. "Here," she said, "take your old bunny. He'll do to sleep with you." And she dragged the rabbit out by his ear and put him into the boy's arms. That night, and for many nights after, the Velveteen Rabbit slept in the boy's bed. At first, he found it rather uncomfortable, for the boy hugged him very tight, and sometimes he rolled over on him, and sometimes he pushed him so far under the pillow, and the rabbit could scarcely breathe. And he missed, too, those long moonlight hours in the nursery when all the house was silent, and his talks with the skin horse. But very soon he grew to like it, for the boy used to talk to him and made nice tunnels for him under the bedclothes he said were for him. And they had splendid games together. In whispers, when Nana had gone away to her supper and left the nightlight burning on the mantelpiece. And when the boy dropped off to sleep, the rabbit would snuggle down close under his little warm chin and dream, with the boy's hands clasped close round him all night long. And so time went on, and the little rabbit was very happy. So happy that he never noticed how his beautiful velveteen fur was getting shabbier and shabbier, and his tail became unsewn, and all the pink rubbed off of his nose where the boy had kissed him. There's our shabby Velveteen Rabbit. Spring came and they had long days in the garden, for wherever the boy went, the rabbit went too. He had rides in the wheelbarrow and picnics in the grass and lovely fairy huts built for him under the raspberry canes behind the flower border. And once, when the boy was called away suddenly to go out to tea, the rabbit was left out on the lawn until long after dusk. And Nana had to come and look for him with the candle because the boy couldn't go to sleep unless he was there. He was wet through with the dew and quite earthy from diving into the burrows the boy had made for him in the flower bed, and Nana grumbled as she rubbed him off with a corner of her apron. "You must have your old bunny," she said. "Fancy all that fuss for a toy." The boy sat up in bed and stretched out his hands. "Give me my bunny," he said. "You mustn't say that. He's not a toy. He's real." When the little rabbit heard that, he was happy, for he knew that what the skin horse had said was true at last. The nursery magic had happened to him, and he was a toy no longer. He was real. The boy himself had said it. That night, he was almost too happy to sleep, and so much love stirred in his little sawdust heart that it almost burst. And into his boot-button eyes, that had long ago lost their polish, there came a look of wisdom and beauty, so that even Nana noticed it next morning when she picked him up and said, "I declare if that old bunny hasn't got quite a knowing expression." That was a wonderful summer. Near the house where they lived, there was a wood, and in the long June evenings, the boy liked to go there after tea to play. He took the Velveteen Rabbit with him, and before he wandered off to pick flowers or play at the brigades along the trees, he always made the rabbit a little nest somewhere among the bracken, where he would be quite cozy. There's our Velveteen Rabbit. But it looks like we have some newcomers here. Let's see what happens. He hasn't, oh, let's see. There we go. One evening, while the rabbit was lying there alone, watching the ants that ran to and fro between his velvet paws in the grass, he saw two strange beings creep out of the tall bracken near him. They were rabbits like himself, but quite furry and brand new. They must have been very well made, for their seams didn't show at all, and they changed shape in a queer way when they moved. One minute they were long and thin, and the next minute fat and bunchy, instead of always staying the same, like he did. Their feet patted softly on the ground, and they crept quite close to him, twitching their noses, while the rabbit stared hard to see which side the clockwork stuck out, for he knew that people who jump generally have something to wind them up. But he couldn't see it. They were evidently a new kind of rabbit altogether. They stared at him, and the little rabbit stared back, and all the time their noses twitched. "Why don't you get up and play with us?" one of them asked. "I don't feel like it," said the rabbit, for he didn't want to explain that he had no clockwork. "Ho," said the furry rabbit, "it's as easy as anything." And he gave a big hop sideways and stood on his hind legs. "I don't believe you can," he said. "I can," said the little rabbit. "I can jump higher than anything." He meant that when the boy threw him, but of course he didn't want to say so. "Can you hop on your hind legs?" asked the furry rabbit. That was a dreadful question, for the Velveteen Rabbit had no hind legs at all. The back of him was made all in one piece, like a pincushion. He sat still in the bracken and hoped that the other rabbits wouldn't notice. "I don't want to," he said again. But the wild rabbits have very sharp eyes, and this one stretched out his neck and looked. "He hasn't got any hind legs," he called out. "Fancy a rabbit without any hind legs," and he began to laugh. I have, cried the little rabbit. I have got hind legs. I'm sitting on them. Then stretch them out and show me like this, said the wild rabbit, and he began to whirl round and dance till the little rabbit got quite dizzy. I don't like dancing, he said. I'd rather sit still. But all the while he was longing to dance, for a funny new tickly feeling ran through him, and he felt he would give anything in the world to be able to jump like these rabbits did. The strange rabbit stopped dancing and came quite close. He came so close this time that his long whiskers brushed the Velveteen Rabbit's ear, and then he wrinkled his nose suddenly and flattened his ears and jumped backwards. He doesn't smell right, he exclaimed. He isn't a rabbit at all. He isn't real. I am real, said the little rabbit. I am real. The boy said so. And he nearly began to cry. Just then there was a sound of footsteps, and the boy ran past near them, and with a stamp of feet and a flash of light, the two rabbits disappeared. Come back and play with me, called the little rabbit. Oh, do come back. I know I am real. But there was no answer. Only the little ants ran to and fro, and the bracken swayed gently where the two strangers had passed. The Velveteen Rabbit was now all alone. Oh dear, he thought, why did they run away like that? Why couldn't they stop and talk to me? For a long time he laid very still, watching the bracken and hoping they would come back, but they never returned. And presently the sun sank lower and the little white moths fluttered about, and the boy came and carried him home. Weeks passed, and the little rabbit grew very old and shabby, but the boy loved him just as much. He loved him so hard that he loved all of his whiskers off, and the pink lining to his ears turned gray, and his brown spots faded. He even began to lose his shape, and he scarcely looked like a rabbit anymore, except to the boy. To him, he was always beautiful, and that was all the little rabbit cared about. He didn't mind how he looked to other people, because the nursery magic had made him real, and when you are real, shabbiness doesn't matter. And then, one day, the boy was ill. His face grew very flushed, and he talked in his sleep, and his little body was so hot that it burned the rabbit when he held him close. Strange people came and went in the nursery, and a light burned all night, and through it all, the little Velveteen Rabbit lay there, hidden from sight under the bedclothes, and he never stirred, for he was afraid that if they found him, someone might take him away, and he knew that the boy needed him. It was a long, weary time, for the boy was too ill to play, and the little rabbit found it rather dull with nothing to do all day. But he snuggled down patiently and looked forward to the time when the boy would be good again, and they would go out into the garden amongst the flowers and the butterflies and play splendid games in the raspberry thicket like they used to. All sorts of delightful things he planned, and while the boy lay half asleep, he crept up close to the pillow and whispered them in his ear. And presently, the fever turned, and the boy got better. He was able to sit up in bed and look at picture books while the little rabbit cuddled close. There's our Velveteen Rabbit. Let's see what happens. One day, they let him get up and get dressed. It was a bright sunny morning, and the window stood wide open. They had carried the boy out to the balcony, wrapped in a shawl, and the little rabbit lay tangled up among the bedclothes, thinking. The boy was going to seaside tomorrow. Everything was arranged, and now it only remained to carry out the doctor's orders. They talked about it all while the little rabbit laid under the bedclothes, just as his head was peeping out, and he listened. The room was to be disinfected, and all the books and toys that the boy had played with in bed must be burnt. Hurrah, thought the little rabbit, tomorrow we're going to go to the seaside. For the boy had often talked of the seaside, and he wanted very much to see the big waves coming in and the tiny crabs and the sand castles. Just then, Nana caught sight of him. How about his old bunny? She asked. That, said the doctor. Why, it's a mass of scarlet fever germs. Burn it at once. What? Nonsense. Get him a new one. He mustn't have that any more. And so the little rabbit was put into a sack with the old picture books and a lot of rubbish and carried out to the end of the garden behind the fowl house. That was a fine place to make a bonfire, only the gardener was too busy just then to attend to it. He had the potatoes to dig and the green peas to gather, but next morning he promised to come quite early and burn the whole lot. That night, the boy slept in a different bedroom, and he had a new bunny to sleep with him. It was a splendid bunny, all white plush with real glass eyes, but the boy was too excited to care very much about it, for tomorrow he was going to the seaside, and that in itself was such a wonderful thing that he could think of nothing else. And when the boy was asleep, dreaming of the seaside, the Velveteen Rabbit lay among the old picture books in the corner behind the fowl house, and he felt very lonely. The sack had been left untied, and so by wriggling a bit, he was able to get his head through the opening and look out. He was shivering a little because he'd been so used to sleeping in a proper bed, and by this time his coat was worn so thin and threadbare from hugging that it was no longer protection to him outside. Nearby, he could see the thicket of raspberry canes growing tall and close like a tropical jungle, in whose shadow he had played with the boy on bygone mornings. He thought of those long sunlit hours in the garden, how happy they were, and great sadness came over him. He seemed to see them all pass before him, each more beautiful than the other. The fairy huts and the flower bed, the quiet evenings in the wood where he laid in the bracken, and the little ants ran over his paws. The wonderful day when he first knew that he was real. He thought of the skin horse, so wise and gentle, and all that he had told him. Of what use was it to be loved and lose one's beauty and become real if it all ended like this? And a real tear, trickled down his shabby velvet nose and fell to the ground. And then the strangest thing happened, for where the tear had fallen, a flower grew out of the ground, a mysterious flower, not at all like any that had grown in the garden. It had slender green leaves the color of emeralds, and in the center of the leaves, a blossom like a golden cup. It was so beautiful that the little rabbit forgot to cry and just laid there watching in wonder. And presently the blossom opened, and out of it stepped a fairy. She was quite the loveliest fairy in the whole world. Her dress was made of pearl and dewdrops, and there were flowers around her neck and in her hair. There's our Velveteen Rabbit, and there's our fairy in the flower. Her face was the most perfect flower of all, and she came close to the little rabbit and gathered him up in her arms and kissed him on his velveteen nose that was all damp from crying. "Little rabbit," she said, "don't you know who I am?" The little rabbit looked up at her, and it seemed to him that he had seen her face before, but he couldn't think where. "I am the nursery magic fairy," she said. "I take care of all the playthings that the children have loved. When they are old and worn out and the children don't need them anymore, then I come and take them away with me and turn them into real." "Wasn't I real before?" asked the little rabbit. "You were real to the boy," the fairy said, "because he loved you. Now you shall be real to everyone." And she held the little rabbit close in her arms and flew with him into the woods. It was light now, for the moon had risen. All the forest was beautiful, and the fronds of the bracken shone like frosted silver. In the open glade between the tree trunks and the wild, the rabbits danced in their shadows on velvet grass. But when they saw the fairy, they all stopped dancing and looked around in a ring to stare at her. "I've brought you a new playfellow," the fairy said. "You must be very kind to him and teach him all he needs to know in Rabbitland, for he's going to live with you forever and ever." And she kissed the little Velveteen Rabbit again and put him down on the grass. "Run and play, little rabbit," she said. But the little rabbit sat quite still for a moment and never moved. For when he saw all the wild rabbits dancing around him, he suddenly remembered about his hind legs, and he didn't want them to see that he was made all in one piece. He didn't know. Here's our brand new rabbit. There's a few others dancing around. Ooh, there's one up here. One back here. He didn't know when the fairy kissed him that was the last time he had changed him altogether. And he might have sat there a long time, too shy to move, if just then something hadn't tickled his nose. And before he thought what he was doing, he lifted his hind toe to scratch it. And he found that he actually had hind legs. Instead of dingy velveteen, he had brown fur, soft and shiny. His ears twitched by themselves, and his whiskers were so long that they brushed the grass. He gave one leap, and the joy of using those hind legs was so great that he went springing around the turf on them, jumping sideways and whirling around as the others did. And he grew so excited that when at last he did stop to look for the fairy, she was gone. He was a real rabbit at last, at home with the other rabbits. Autumn passed, and winter, and in the spring, when the days grew warm and sunny, the boy went outside to play in the wood behind his house. And when he was playing, two rabbits crept out from the bracken and peeped at him. One of them was brown all over, but the other had strange markings under his fur, as though long ago he had been spotted, and the spots still showed through. And about this, his little soft nose and his little round black eyes, there was something familiar, so that the boy thought to himself, "Why, he looks just like my old bunny that was lost when I had scarlet fever." But he never knew that it really was his own bunny, come back to look at the child who had first helped him to be real. All right. So that's the end of our story. So our Velveteen Rabbit went on a really awesome journey and had the love of his owner that eventually helped him to become real. So now that we read our story, I'm going to pass it off to Andrea, and she's going to talk to you guys a little bit about rabbits, and she also has a very special surprise for you. So Andrea, I'll leave it up to you. Do you want me to share the screen first? Awesome. All right, it's all yours.
All right. So that was a wonderful story. I love the Velveteen Rabbit. So first off, I want to take a moment to explain what a rabbit is. So a lot of people think that rabbits are relatives of rodents, but they're actually not. So they're from a family called lagomorphs, and that is its own family in itself. But they are closely related because they do have teeth like rodents. These are ever-growing incisors, so they always need something like sticks or other things of wood to keep chewing to keep those teeth down. But rabbits have a special tooth. They have another incisor behind the top two, and they always wear those down. So you might have heard of rabbits or hares. What's the difference? So hares are usually found in drier environments, and they are typically larger, faster, and leaner than your normal rabbits that you'll see around. These guys are really interesting because when they have babies, their babies are born ready to go, just like a horse or a cow. So they are born completely covered in fur. Their eyes and ears are open. However, when they're adults, hares are very, very skittish. They don't like coming near people at all. And also, they don't usually burrow underground like cottontails do. Now, what about wild rabbits? So wild rabbits will always have those upright ears. They have a very long and narrow face, as you can see in the picture. And they have a varied diet, but they are all herbivores, as are hares. So they eat a variety of grasses, clovers, flowers, leaves. And cottontails usually dig burrows. And then these guys are prey animals, meaning that other animals will eat them. So we have a very fancy rhyme about predators and prey, and that is eyes in front like to hunt, eyes on the side like to hide. So rabbits have their eyes on the side, and that gives them almost 360-degree vision all around them. These guys are a little scared of people, so they will run away from them. And they're young, unlike the hare, are born hairless. They need their mom's help to take care of them. And if you're from around the area where Hawk Mountain is, we have the eastern cottontail. So this is the most common rabbit in North America. It is brownish gray, and there's like little tick marks throughout its fur, and it's got that really nice white fluffy tail. They usually live in open grassy areas near a forest edge, and they are also herbivores. However, they only live up to 3 years old. But one really important thing you want to do is if you find a nest of baby bunnies, it's very, very important to leave it alone. Mom will come and nurse those baby bunnies twice a day, in the morning and at night, because rabbits are crepuscular animals. So they are most active at dawn and dusk. But if you find a nest of baby bunnies, which is just a shallow dugout area covered in mom's fur and some dried grasses, leave it alone. They don't want it to be bothered. Now, as you know, we have domestic rabbits. So these domestic rabbits are different from wild rabbits because they have a large variety of colors and coat types. Some have really short hair that, like the Velveteen Rabbit, feels just like velvet, and those are called Rex rabbits. Some of them, like the Rex rabbit or the Dutch rabbit, will have upright ears, just like wild rabbits. However, there are some breeds, like the English Lop or the Holland Lop, that have dropped ears. Or I've seen some that have one dropped ear and one upright ear. They're just a little mix in between. These guys, unfortunately, have a stricter diet than their wild counterparts. So rabbits, usually in captivity, need to eat hay. This needs to be provided to them 24/7, and this is important to keep those teeth wore down and their gut moving. They like to dig and like small, dark, cramped spaces for sleeping. And they are also a prey animal, meaning that they can spook very easily. However, unlike wild rabbits, they do like people, and they will bond with you if you give them enough time. The young are also born hairless and helpless. However, most people don't know that domestic rabbits can live 10 to 12 years on average, which is just about as long as your domestic dog can. So now it's time for our special guest. So are you ready to meet a real live rabbit? So we're gonna turn our computer
And then hit stop share.
and we're gonna stop our sharing here. And we're gonna turn around. And we're gonna meet a real rabbit. So this is my rabbit, and his name is Ninjin, Ninjin. And he is a breed of rabbit called a Holland Lop. So he's got these lopped ears here that just fall down if I pick them up. What he likes to do is he likes to rearrange his environment. So we can tell he's a rabbit because, well, he's got these big feet for thumping and jumping around. He's got these ears, and he's got really nice chubby cheeks. And then also he's got some incisors in his mouth. But also he's got that ever twitching nose, just like the wild rabbits did in the Holland Lop, in the Velveteen Rabbit. So he has his hay. He likes to eat a variety of fresh leafy greens, but right now he's a little camera shy. So he has Brussels sprouts, he loves broccoli, and then here I have some things if he wanted to, he could chew them. So that is our little Holland Lab. And he is an adult. He's 2.5 years old, and he's only 4 pounds. So he's the smallest breed of lop-eared rabbits. He's not the smallest breed of rabbits in general, but he's only about 4 pounds, and he has a water bowl back here. And these guys can drink as much water as a medium-sized dog, so you always want to provide them with fresh water. One thing about Ninjin is that he really, really likes where his things are back home. He does not like if things get moved around, and he'll throw a fit. But another thing that most people don't know about pet rabbits is that they're incredibly smart. So Ninjin, if he was at home and more comfortable than this big echoey space that I'm in, he would do tricks. I've trained him to do several different tricks, but right now he's a little shy. Oop. Yep, move your stuff around, good boy. So I'm gonna pass it back over to Riley, and she's gonna tell you how to make your own sock rabbit. Riley?
Thank you, Andrea, and thank you, Ninjin. You are absolute sweetheart. So for our very last activity for today, I'm going to show you how to make one of these sock rabbits. It's very easy. So all you pretty much need is a sock and some scissors and some string. And then everything else is optional. You can decorate the face with a marker. I use some pieces of felt and googly eyes, but you can add a little bow if you want. But pretty much all you do is you fill your sock up with rice, and then you tie it at the top for the ears, and you tie it around the neck so you can make a head. And then you just trim the top to look like ears. I made mine to look just like Ninjin, where it has black fur with a white stripe down the head. But we're gonna attach a YouTube link so you guys are able to watch the video of how I made this, but it's very easy and you can decorate it however you want. I added this little fancy bow here, but that's how you make your sock rabbit. So that is all we have for you guys today. I'm going to pass it off to Jamie for our closing.
Thank you, Riley, and thank you, Andrea. I love the story, the Velveteen Rabbit. What a great story, and I love the fairy at the end. And I loved meeting Ninjin. He's adorable and so smart. Thank you so much, Andrea, for bringing in Ninjin. So for everyone joining us today, thank you. We hope you had fun and enjoyed the program. And as Riley mentioned in the email that I sent to everyone with the link to watch the program, we have a link to a YouTube video that goes into a lot of detail about how you can make your own sock rabbit puppet with just materials that you have in your own home. Our next Sanctuary Story program is on Thursday, December 17th at 11 o'clock a.m. And we are going to be reading the story, Copy Me, Copy Cub. And that story is about bears. There's a mama bear who's teaching her young bear cub everything he needs to know about hibernation. And that's a good story to read in December as it's getting cold. Okay, also kids, we are having a Christmas bird count for kids at Hawk Mountain on Sunday, December 13th at 10 o'clock a.m. If you want to come and learn how to find birds outside with one of our educators, and it's part of a Christmas bird count. So that is really awesome, and we hope you can join us. We hope everyone has a great day, and we hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.